We're all here because we love Easter Park and we want to save it.
Yep.
So we are going to have a press conference.
My name's Tommy Loeb. I live on Grand Street. I've lived there for 45 years. I was there. I observed Hurricane Sandy. As you all know, 2012, Hurricane Sandy. Starting in 2014, the community was involved with some visioning sessions. We came up with a plan, imperfect, but in 2018, the city dropped the current plan. So we are fighting all of this with poetry. We're fighting it politically, and I hope every one of you has contacted your elected official, but we're also fighting it legally. And the most important part of this is there's a state law called alienation, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It means that if you take a park and you do anything to it, even temporarily for another purpose, you have to get state approval, and the community is entitled to be compensated. Well, lo and behold, and some of you may have been following this, there was something called the value engineering study done in 2018 by the city. And all along, everybody denied it even existed. We have Carlina Rivera on video saying that it did not exist. And what we had to do is, and this is where community resources, we had to raise money, we had to go to court, and at first the city denied the value engineering study existed. Then, as many of you may have seen, the city released a redacted value engineering report, which had hundreds of pages totally blacked out. So guess what? We had to continue to go to court, and we did, and we finally got an unredacted community value engineering study. And it's been like peeling an onion. All the arguments that the city has raised why they need to do this plan are uncovered in the value engineering study. First of all, they acknowledge that this was a resiliency plan. This was never a park plan to save East River Park. This was a resiliency plan. So again, under alienation, if you're using a park for anything other than a park purpose, you have to go to the state, and then you have to compensate the community. Their number in the value engineering report is that they would estimating they would have to compensate the community anywhere from $300 million to $700 million for the loss of the park during construction. And that was one of the reasons they changed it from a resiliency plan to a park plan. One of the ways the community plan, which was about $750 million, became as expensive as the city plan, which is almost $1.45 billion, is they added that $700 million to the community plan so that our plan was as expensive as their plan. The mitigation money was meant so that the community could do things like we asked for. For example, we asked for free ferry service from Lenapehoking and Stye Cove to Governor's Island. Not a big deal compared to $700 million. But our elected officials couldn't even deliver that. We have been denied the use of Lenapehoking and Stuyvesant Cove to go to Governor's Island. So we went to court under alienation, and we have an attorney, Arthur Schwartz, who's representing us, and we went to court, and unfortunately, the lower court judge bought the city's argument, which is totally unjustified in terms of climate science. The city has argued that in the year 2100, 80 years from now, due to climate change and sea level rise, East River Park will naturally flood twice a day. Now, no climate scientist worth their salt has any idea where climate change is going to affect sea level rise past the year 2050. In fact, they think it's crazy. Because, first of all, if we do nothing, folks, 2100, 2050 aren't going to make a difference. East River Park and the entire city are going to flood. Sea level rise is estimated to go 8, 10, 12 feet if the Arctic ice shelf melts or we don't do anything. Then if we do something, chances are that sea level rise won't be as bad as we think it's going to be. And if we do a lot, we could keep sea level rise below what we hope is going to be the catastrophe. The current plan, by the way, only addresses, even the city acknowledges, sea level rise through the year 2050. We could be faced with redoing the entire park in the year 2050 due to increased sea level rise. So we're in court on alienation. The most important date is coming up, and that's October 27th. We're
October 27th. Mark your calendar.
October 27th at 2 o'clock, we're to be heard in the appellate division here in New York on our alienation lawsuit. And we just uncovered, by the way, a new peeling of the onion. Besides issues like construction timetable, the city always argued that the Con Ed line that is buried under East River Park was untouchable, and therefore the community original plan could not be done. Just 4 days ago, at Community Board 3, the city announced that in fact the Con Ed line was going to be replaced and redone, which was one of the major arguments they gave in not allowing us to do the community plan. So, you know, we continue to unpeel the onion. We do poetry, we do politics, and we do legal. And we have to continue to do the both. And by the way, on the redaction and on the value engineering study, I just want to tell you how amazing we have had to be. This didn't come cheap. The city didn't just release the value engineering study without us hiring an attorney and going to court. It cost us $22,000 to go to court and unredact the value engineering study. And guess what the city just did? They just acknowledged that they were wrong, and they're paying us back $22,500. That may sound good, but just realize what they did. First they obstructed us, they denied it existed, then they made us go raise money to hire an attorney, then they made us go to court, and they first released a redacted report, and then they made us continue to go to court, and finally release an unredacted report, and then amazingly enough, they fight us with our own tax dollars in court, and then they pay us back with our own tax dollars.
Jail time!
Which could be. So I hope you realize that we may come back to you also, because the legal fight may not be over, and this has been an expensive prospect, and we're going to need to raise money. We're not a wealthy community. We cannot raise the money that some other communities can raise, but we may have to dig into our pockets a little more. So everybody needs to keep up the fight with poetry, fight with politics, and we're going to fight in court.
Yes.
I did say, and by the way, one of the reasons I asked to go is at 4 o'clock, believe it or not, the elected officials appointed this basically phony group called the Community Advisory Group, which has appointed members by our elected officials, and they're meeting at 4 o'clock, and they are discussing this, but their primary purpose is to basically put the plan forward. It's not to fight the plan. Sure. Sure. I mean, one of the other amazing things that's happened that nobody has really paid attention to is during the bidding process, there were 5 extensions of the current bid, and the city only got 2 bids on a $1.45 billion project, which should sound pretty amazing given the amount of contractors we have out there, and only 2 people chose to bid on it, which means that they were really concerned probably about the project in itself. City law requires that the city accept the lowest bid, and the lowest bid even came in at $55 million over the city's engineer's bid prospect. However, that was a company that was cobbled together and had no prior experience in a project like this, nor in taking on a project like this. In addition, the city has a requirement that minority and women-owned businesses get up to 30% of any contract that the city is involved in. Well, when the controller looked at the city, at the contract, he rejected it for two reasons. Number one, the contractor who won the bid had not filled out all the appropriate paperwork. And secondly, the contractor's bid met such ridiculous low standards for the minority women-owned business, and you're going to laugh, but as you know, the area above 14th Street is already under construction, and they hired one person. I'm not joking. One person from the community was hired to work on that project after Carlina Rivera and all the elected officials. One of their other major reasons was that this was going to be a big economic boom and a big job provider for the Lower East Side. Well, guess what, folks? So far, we got one job at a $1.45 billion. So ultimately, when the controller asked the mayor questions, the mayor refused to answer them. And there's also a quirk, believe it or not, which seems crazy, but the controller is really not the controller. He's supposed to have the fiduciary responsibility of the city, but there's some kind of anomaly in the city charter or the city law which allows the mayor to just ignore the controller and just approve the contract. So what the mayor did in this case was he ignored the controller's objections, and this is $1.45 billion, and he just approved the contract. Yes. So, again, poetry, politics, the courts.
Thanks, Tommy.
Thank you.
That was Tommy Loeb. And remember, the thing he said before the last thing, which is we're going to court on October 27th. So the final word is not the mayor or Stringer. This is a press conference now. People will continue to share information, and there will be some poetry cut-ins still, too. So this is Lucy Coteen of East River Park Action.
Hi, everybody. I actually don't live in the neighborhood. I live in Brooklyn, where we have our own big fights going on, and I've been sharing with other communities for a couple of years now all these various environmental fights. But I want to point out in today's back page of the Science Times an article about the importance of pollinators and the search for pollinators. And I just wanted to say that after Hurricane Sandy, as I understand it, volunteers deliberately planted plants that would attract pollinators, because, you know, without pollinators we all die, since they take care of our food supply for us. Thank you very much, pollinators. So, obviously every living organism will be killed in the park when they bulldoze the whole thing. Every living thing in the soil, in the air, the birds, the bees, the plants, everything will be dead. It will be ecocide, as you see the sign back here. So, we want to thank our pollinators, and my chant I like to say, we need bees and trees. We need bees and trees, because without them, we won't survive either. So, if you have a look, beautiful pictures of bees, and there is a very rare bee in the park, right? I forget his name. You know? Anyone know the name?
The eastern bumblebee, I believe.
The eastern Amy Burkhoff is not here. She would know. Wendy would know. But it's a very, I don't know if it's on the endangered list, but it's an unusual bee. It's threatened and it will die. And who knows when any of these things will come back. Remember, they talk about planting trees afterwards, but if this project takes 10 years, which is very likely, then they plant the trees, then how long until you have a useful tree? Another 10, 20, 30 years till you have trees that are carbon sequesters and produce the shade that's useful. And then in 2050, they might do it all over again. By the time you have functioning trees, maybe they'll bulldoze the thing again and start. I mean, it is the most insane project. Not one environmentalist was involved in forming this. And we had a terrible Parks Commissioner, Mitchell Silver. And my take on him is that he hated nature and he hated trees. Because we fought him in my community of Brooklyn when they wanted to kill 80, and still do, plan to kill 83 trees in a park. And here it's almost 1,000 trees. He was part of this plan. So how can you have a Parks Commissioner whose purpose is to kill trees, who functions like that? We have a Parks Commissioner that promoted arborcycles. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Oh, I did mention, I work a lot with Sierra Club in New York City, and Sierra Club is totally opposed to this project, and they're trying to help fight it too, but it's a difficult thing when you have the politicians who just turn their back on the people in the community who put them in office, don't care what the people that they represent think. That's what we have. So keep bothering them, call them every day, protest outside the office. Don't be shy. Let them know what you do. Thank you very much.
So it's Lucy Cochini. Who's coming up next? Yes.
Hi everyone, I'm Emily Johnson.
Hi, Emily.
I'm from the Yupik Nation. I'm a choreographer and artist, a land and water protector. I live on the Lower East Side. Do a lot of stuff with East River Park Action and 1,000 trees. I'm going to think a few things that I think we also need to keep in our hearts and our minds and in the press is that this is Lenape land, this is Lenapehoking, and all of our work we pay respect, create pathways for forcibly removed Lenape folks to return to their homelands. The destruction of East River Park is genocide and ecocide on a place of genocide and ecocide and forced removal and massacre. And so it's violence, it's hot violence that has been ongoing for 500 years. So I really, truly appreciate and love all of the allied effort and support to protect the trees, to protect our neighborhood, and to protect Lenapehoking. This land protective effort is related to all land protective efforts happening currently, right now. There's an assault on our lands, there has been for 500 years. Our lands, meaning indigenous lands, there's an assault. This is a land grab, and I think we need to not only remember that, but continually say that. We need to say that because that's not a story that's being shared. I think that's all that I need to say. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. This has been so much fun. I just have to say, who would have thought fighting an insane plan by the city to decimate 1,000 trees would actually be so much fun, and getting to meet all the different people in my neighborhood has been amazing. I'm Sarah Wellington. Thank you, Naomi. So Eileen is going to read a statement. That's our official press conference, I guess you could say, and then a poem, and then a song. But I just want to invite everybody here that is not standing on the grass to come in, if you would like. Just an invitation, no pressure, but to feel the earth and the dirt and the grass, and it's quite lovely. So if you want to come on in, you're invited. We're going to start that now. If people want to gather around and listen. So thanks for being here, everyone. Nice to see you.
Hey, you guys. So this is not a press release. And I'm going to say, some of the information that we're all sharing, I will share again. And so I think it's repetition is, conviction is in relationship to the amount of redundancy in the message. And so this is politics. I read that. So Frederick Jameson. Yeah. It's one of my favorite quotes. Okay, so this is not a press release. They say that sometimes they will begin to destroy our park in November, and sometimes they say they will do it in December. They send representatives of the DDC to the community board meeting, and they promise they will post pictures of the construction plan before the meeting, and they do not do that. And they do not do that at the meeting. At the meeting, they say Esker might run a year longer than they had previously planned, and they say they will post pictures of the construction plan afterwards, and what they do then is post a link that doesn't go anywhere. Then they say next week, that's what the link says. And we call the DDC, and we speak to an engineer, and he says he can't really give us any more information because they don't really know. The only good thing is that the engineer doesn't pretend, whereas Desiree, the woman from the PR firm for the DDC, has to pretend. That is her job. asked her where she lives at an earlier board meeting, and she ignored me and seemed threatened. I only wanted to say, you don't live here, and this is not your life. This is your job. When we talked about the particulate matter that will blow from the 1 million tons of landfill that will bury our park once they begin, she said they would put some water on it so it doesn't blow around. Or they might get some tarps. Finally, though, her best advice was, we can close our windows. Yeah, I remember that after 9/11, keeping my window closed. And 9/11, if you remember, wasn't a plan. It wasn't our plan anyway. It wasn't a choice. ESCR is a choice on the part of our city government, but you can't call this planning. We thought since there's been a pandemic, since they came up with ESCR and most recently flooding, that there ought to be an oversight hearing on their plan. Since 2019, when ESCR was first foisted on a neighborhood that does not want it, drop it please, thank you. We have been told the rationale was the value engineering report. We said, let us see it. They said no. The engineering firm that was commissioned by Carlina Rivera and Gail Brewer to compare the original plan vetted by the community and some mid-step plan and the plan of doing nothing and the newer, faster, more destructive, more expensive ESCR asked to see the value engineering report, and the city said no. Before the commission delivered its report, the city council, including Carlina Rivera, who had commissioned the as-yet incomplete study, voted almost unanimously to go ahead with the newer, faster, more expensive, more destructive plan, despite community outrage and environmentalist testimony against the plan. We continued to ask them to see the report, and the city said it didn't exist. Carlina said there never was a report. It was more like a workshop. Finally we received an utterly redacted plan. We foiled for the original document. We received a less redacted plan. What are they hiding, huh? But what do we want? But in the middle of all this mishigas, what do we want? A member of our ERPA group, that's East River Park Action, was on her way to the climate conference in Glasgow. Wendy Brower writes this: to tell the truth, said one of the chief negotiators for the UN climate agreement, and the whole audience wept along with her, knowing that to tell the truth, that's the plan. And the whole audience wept along with her, knowing that without a fundamental realignment of values, policies, and practices, our species cannot survive the soaring temperatures, emissions, displacements, and injustices that we are already experiencing. Back to Wendy. The whole world is coming together to remove carbon and mitigate impacts, yet the current ESCR is carbon intensive and sacrifices our community when a better plan can protect NYCHA, other housing, and East River Park against many of the different kinds of climate shocks, including extreme rainfall, overheating, drought, not just the ESCR's sea level rise and storm surge protection. And after repeated foils, we did get the majority of the value engineering report. And here's the shocking news about why we desperately need an oversight hearing before they go ahead with this madness. This is what's in the report. There was not one climate scientist, health or environmental professional at the table during the selection of the current destructive plan, according to the value engineering report. The environmental impact statement referred to in it left out current climate data, environmental justice, the pandemic, the newly announced wrapping of the Con-Ed lines, which were one of the reasons why they had to do this plan. With much of this already known or intuited, we began a large protest march last April to petition Justin Brannan, City Council Chair of the Waterfront and Resiliency Committee, to call an oversight hearing for the City Council. After almost 3 months, Brannan agreed to have a meeting with us in his office. He agreed to hold an oversight hearing, subsequently pulling in the support of James Gennaro, Environmental Chair of the City Council. The next hurdle was Corey Johnson, the Speaker of the City Council. Corey apparently needed to approve the hearing, and from then, the end of June, until today, he has not responded. We began petitioning Corey by mail and by phoning his office. We hung a huge banner outside City Hall demanding he respond, and 2 women attached themselves to a tree. Nothing. We returned the following week and occupied a small area of City Hall Park with a succession of people chained to trees. Chelsea Manning, as well as a shifting and dedicated throng, showed up for days. And lo, avoiding the cab drivers who were striking at the other entrance to City Hall, Corey Johnson appeared. He told us in a congenial 25-minute conversation that he had never heard of Esker. Meanwhile, he was the Speaker of the City Council when they voted on it. He had never heard of Esker, and he knew nothing about the destruction of East River Park. He had received none of our messages, and Justin Brannan had never written him. He gave us his contact, and he asked for more information. He claimed that Carlina Rivera and Keith Powers and Margaret Chin, as the councilors whose district Esker affects, would need to petition for the hearing. Later, we have been told that was not true. In fact, Carlina Rivera told us at one of her events in Stuytown that Corey told her that the request would have to come from the appropriate committee, i.e. Justin Brannan. We have been inviting Justin Brannan to come here and meet with us here today, and all the days we have been down here. We told him Corey Johnson said he never asked for a hearing. He said he would put it in writing and send it to us. He has not. We called him and asked for it. We sent Corey Johnson all the information he could possibly want. We've asked for a meeting. We've asked for a reply. We invited him to be here today. The city council feels like a comedy team that keeps passing a hot potato while each saying, I don't have the potato. But the hot potato is our lives, our health, our environment, and the young people who have never had any voice, like that thing that Tommy was talking about, the meeting he's going to at 4 o'clock. There's no young people on that meeting. There's nobody young. So the young people who never had any voice in this process and will be holding the bag when this park is gone, when I am gone. And as Catherine de la Cruz, a young artist and activist who has been showing up and organizing, speaking for our cause, said, after they kill these ones, meaning the trees, the old trees, I don't know if there will be any more 90-year-old trees, which is, to me, the most profound question of what we're going through. How can you possibly cut down 80-year-old trees when you don't have any guarantee on this planet that there will ever be another 80 or 90-year-old tree? That is the greatest question I have heard. Why would there be a future anyone can believe in, since we are still living in a legacy of mired-in deception and opportunism and dysfunction in the present day? Is it possible the DDC knows so little about what itself is doing, except that they want to break ground on Esker and get the destruction going, and they will mop up later and give us a plastic rendition of a public park? A plastic rendition of democracy, because that is what we are living in today. Our government is a joke. Our participatory process is a joke. I mean, I really have increasingly that people who don't vote, I feel that in a deep way. It was like, who are you? The destruction of the planet and our lives is not a joke, and there will be no one left holding the bag. That hot potato in the city of New York and de Blasio and all these characters apparently protecting their own political futures by pushing us all to the end of global extinction. If they can do it here in plain sight, and that's the scariest part too, is they keep saying, the people who want to do it say, this will be a model for the world. Can you imagine what that means? I mean, if they can do it here in plain sight with no faint recognition in the mainstream media, I mean, like, we're standing here right now, we call it the press conference. Is there any media here at all? Is there any mainstream media? Would they ever come? I mean, it makes me, I can't help feeling like this is the biggest real estate deal of the 21st century. That's what we're really talking about. 60 acres of riverfront land. Look at the west side and look at the east side. That's what we're talking about. Every goddamn bit of media in New York City and every goddamn politician is in on this, or else tell me what else it could possibly be. Is this just dysfunction driven so up the ass of democracy that we're all going to die of it? They can do it here in plain sight with no faint recognition in the mainstream media that this is happening. If you can make it here, they can make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York.
Basically, saving the park is a question of life or death. It's really going to kill people. It's going to shorten their lifespan. People cannot live. It's all over the news that heat is the #1 killer. If there's no shade, if there's no trees, if there's no place to go for a park, for green space, it's known, it is on all the news stories, how people start to get mentally ill. They start to get violent. They're going to hurt each other. and this population in particular, and it's the only park on the Lower East Side. And this population has huge rates of asthma and lung diseases from 9/11 because everybody was covered in this dust. And the toxic dust that's going to be dug up, and the amount of dust, that don't worry, they're going to water it down and put it, that's going to start to make people very sick. And it's also known that any particulate matter in the air makes COVID much, much more severe. And COVID is still here, guys. So this park, it's not in the news, but it's all over the news, but not about our park and what it's going to do to the local residents. And it's who's going to be accountable for this? To me, they should all be put on like premeditated murder, but everybody waits for the murder to happen. It's like, why are we waiting? And nobody, like Trust for Public Land, we all need green space. The new state commissioner, we all need green space. Everybody's working on green space, how important it is. And not one group, not one organization says, just spoke before, Sierra Club, sorry. The silence is deafening. The press, nobody will support us. The New York Times said, don't worry, we did a story on this 3 years ago. Well, this project, the silence is deafening, and it's going to hurt people, we need trees. It's mind-boggling, and I can't understand the silence. It's really scary, and the local residents are scared. And most people, many people, still don't even know what's going to happen. And they all believe the city has been lying about so many things on this. It's not flood protection. It's built for storm surge. And now they're just saying, well, we'll keep your park dry. Well, wetlands are the best resiliency. This is $2 billion of an unnecessary plan. And if you start connecting the dots at this point, de Blasio is in with the developers and he owes them money. There was a new story, he's in debt with the developers or something like that. He put in Springer, this guy Jamie Springer, in charge of this project, who is also connected to the same developers. He also just hired the new commissioner. Silver didn't like doing maintenance on trees, and he said, somebody said the trees are too old to clean the air anymore, whatever. I mean, the perpetual lies are unbelievable. And then, now the new Parks Commissioner, her specialty is the public-private relationships and funding. So connect the dots. That was fashion. I don't know if she's fashionable or not, but I don't know about the fashion part, but her specialty is putting deals together for public-private. So connect the dots, it's all adding up. I used to say, we can't say it's a land grab, but more and more as you connect the dots. Oh my goodness, and underneath the park is water and streams and fill. Not good for putting up tall buildings, but the new fill that's coming in, the new concrete fill will be fantastic for their foundations. Anyway, the silence is incredible. This is really going to hurt people, and I don't even know if the new trees are going to grow. So in the story in the newspaper, they say, well, they're cutting 1,000 trees, but they're going to plant 1,800 new trees. Well, it's going to be so hot up there with the artificial turf. It's very hot in full sun. Concrete is white, it reflects heat right back into your face. These trees are going to be scorched before they can even grow. I mean, this is the worst thing that they could do for the people. It's the worst thing they could do for climate change, for climate justice. There's going to be no habitat, no birds. It's going to be too hot for the birds to fly over, for God's sake. And the deafening silence throughout the city, throughout the press, throughout we're losing sleep. I don't know how these politicians can sleep at night. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy. Well, I asked Carlina on Wednesday night. I asked Carlina when I saw her. I said to her face, I said, how do you sleep at night? I said, I guess you sleep pretty well in your $1.5 million brand new apartment that you moved to uptown out of your old neighborhood. She didn't really have a response to that, but Allie's Allie's gonna talk now. I just want to say one quick thing before I forget, really quick. Democracy didn't really work out for us in this realm, as it doesn't for so many other realms. So we're gonna have to use our bodies, and we're gonna have to do direct action, which means we're gonna have to put our bodies in the park when they come to put up the fencing in a few weeks. So some of us are planning to do that, and I just want to, since everybody's here, give your phone number to 2 new people that don't know that, we're all here in support of the park, and we all want to protect the park, and we want to take actions. And let's just start our phone tree going so we're all in communication. So look around, you see a new person, say let's exchange numbers so that when the fencing comes in, we're going to have to go down there and stand there and stop them from putting the fences in, because that's what the next step is. And yeah, it's great to get to know each other before we have to do that in the very cold weather, and it's going to be a little rough. So it's great to spend this time to get to know each other. And I'm Sarah, and I'm happy to, let's exchange phone numbers so we can be prepared. All right, Allie. And after Allie, if Augie is here with the cabbies, I would love it if Augie would just come up and make a statement so to make sure everyone here knows what's going on with their struggle.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm running for City Council for District 2 as an independent. I know many of you, and it's great to see you here. I first want to say, in the past 24 hours, I've run into people that I remember being around in 2019, that we together went with our children to the City Planning Commission hearing to testify against the ESCR, as well as the City Council hearing that fall. And it reminds me, actually, and it ties in with the cabby drivers too, is that when I testified, I actually called to re-envisioned FDR. And I'm realizing, like, with congestion pricing, the cabbies have made me aware that we actually should be against it, because Uber and other ride-sharing programs are in bid with the city to put that forth. And so I was reminded again today, I should be calling for putting the FDR into a tunnel. We want to reclaim that land, and so it makes me excited to think about that. But then another note I want to talk about Carlina is that I also found out today that Goals is going to be having it's an organization that helps tenants a nonprofit that helps tenants and tenants' rights in the Lower East Side, and they're in bed with Carlina because she gives them money, which, that's what a city council member does. That's a good thing. But they're hosting on Saturday in East River Park, right next to the Halloween doggy parade, a celebration of the ESCR, which is a celebration to destroy the park. So what I want to ask of everyone is that we all go to this event, and as Goals and their volunteers pass out information of why the ESCR is a good plan, let's pass out our own information about the truth about this plan that is a disastrous plan. It's the thought of whoever came up with the idea that it's okay to kill 1,000 trees in the room full of people who agreed with that person, in my opinion, should go to jail. Because ecocide, yes. Yes. So my call to action to everybody here is come to East River Park on Saturday. We need as many people as possible. 12 new. Which entrance? Grand Street. At the barbecue area.
What are you doing out there?
Yeah, Tonto.
My name is Tonto. I'm part of the East Side River over there. I use that park all the time. I go there with my friends, old friends over there. Yes, but the thing is, you gotta think about the kids too. Where they're gonna play. I already talked to some players over there. Says I don't know where we're gonna play. Okay, just send us wherever. That's not right. That's one thing. I was here before Sandy. It was called Blue Wave Project. Blue Wave Project was to improve the park. Put a bridge right over where the pitch is for people to walk across the highway and everything like that, not to get pinched with the traffic. But the thing is, I've been going over to these meetings. I've been asking questions. Now, 3 or 4 years ago, I can't ask questions. I go to community board meetings. I try to ask questions. It's no. It's if they're just here presentation, you know, to show pictures and everything that. And I told them, could I say something? They said no. It says go to the website. We could give you you could give the opinion.
Our new very good friend Augie, I didn't know his name. Augie Tang, one of the cabbies, and we became good friends when we 2 weeks ago when we were here all weekend. We couldn't have done it without Augie, and I had the pleasure of shutting down the Brooklyn Bridge with them last Friday. So I thank them for allowing me to participate. So here's Augie.
You know, ever since I met Sarah, she's just been such an advocate for us, and just nothing but love, and you know, we're neighbors and all this. So she mentioned something about direct action, and I gotta tell you guys, it needs to happen. Everyone needs to show up, and we have to do our part to make changes in this world. They're gonna make it very hard for us. We have to make it very hard for them. Do what's necessary. We're out here 24/7. We're trying to talk to as many press as we can. We're shutting down bridges. We don't give a fuck. You know, I'm sick and tired of these guys just trying to play politics with our lives. And we definitely deserve more. And for this issue itself, you guys deserve everything. Shut it down.
Yeah.
Fucking shut it down.
And just
Yes.
about what you're doing, struggling.
Well, the city artificially inflated the prices of the medallions, leaving thousands of medallion owners drowning in debt. Predominantly immigrant medallion lease drivers that invested in the city. Not only that, they invested 20, 30, 40 years of their lives. Right now they came up with a $65 million plan that doesn't go far enough. It's literally a bailout for the banks and lenders while still handcuffing these drivers at the age of 60, 70 years old behind the wheel. They have lost their retirement. They're about to lose their jobs and their homes connected to the medallion at the age of 60s and 70s. We're out here as long as it takes. This isn't a new fight for us. We've been out here for 3 years trying to make sure the public understands what's happening. We understand now that we deserve more. 9 brothers have committed suicide because of the financial ruin. We're just not gonna let that happen anymore. You know, and for me, like Sarah, thank you for coming to shutting down the bridge. And for many of us, I think that direct action is necessary. Fuck, just shut it all down. You know, we got to do this all together. And thank you guys for coming here. It just makes it easier for us to be out here as well too.